Okay. What is involved in your circulatory system? What organ is involved in your circulatory system?
The heart,
The heart. What else?
the blood,
Yeah, the heart, the blood. What else?
Arteries.
Arteries, veins. What else?
blood vessels,
So you talk about your heart, and then you talk about blood, and then you talk about blood is carried in the
blood vessels.
blood vessels. Right? Is that all? Is that all? And when you talk about your blood vessel, you talk about your artery, you talk about the veins,
Vein
you
and
talk
capillaries.
capillaries. Right? Okay. Is that all?
No.
Remember, your lungs as well is involved in your circulatory system. Okay, because what do blood carry?
Oxygen. Wait,
Where does
red
get
blood cells
oxygen from?
from the
From the lungs. So it's
Lungs.
of the organ that is involved in the circulatory system. Right. So you have two types of circulatory system. One is the blood circulatory system. Another one, you also have your lymphatic circulatory. Okay, so you have your lymphatic system that is connected to your circulatory system, right? But it's a circulatory system by its own. It's made up of the limbs, lymphatic vessel, and carries the limbs. And remember, when you talk about lymphatic vessel, remember your small intestine, you have your lacteal. So lacteal is also part of the lymphatic system. You get that?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, now, so you have your circulatory system, and when you talk about your circulatory system, we have this. Okay. Okay. We'll cover your heart. We'll discuss about the heart, this, and then we'll talk about the blood vessel, and then we'll go into the limbs. This is usually I need about 2 or 3 for this one, but let's start with the heart first, okay, and see how it goes today.
Teacher Amira is here.
Mira is here. Okay, Mira. Mana Mira?
Yes.
We just started. We're talking about circulatory system. When you talk circulatory system, you're talking about what? You're talking about circulatory system. Blood circulatory system carries the blood, right? So you also need the heart to pump the blood around. You need the lungs to oxygenate the blood, and you need the blood vessel to carry the blood, right? And the blood vessel will be artery, veins, and capillary. And you also have the lymphatic system as part of the circulatory system, right? And lymphatic system is made up of lymphatic vessel, the limbs that carries the limbs, and you also have lacteal. Where do you come across lacteal, Amira?
Intestine.
Yes, your small intestine. What goes into lacteal? Glycerol and fatty
Fatty acid.
Okay, so we'll cover all this. Okay, but today we'll be covering. Let's see how much we can cover today. Right. Okay, so you okay with that? Now let's start with the heart first. Okay, when you talk about the heart, but when you talk about circulatory system before that, okay, when you talk about human circulatory system is what we call double circulatory system. Okay? It's a
Double.
circulatory system. Okay. If you do your past paper, you come across, they'll give you fish or they give you other organism as well. But it's all based on your double circulatory system. Once you understand what circulatory system is, they give you anything else, you'll be able to answer. But if you do your SPM, I'm not so sure whether you have fish and you have insects, circulatory system and everything. I'm not so sure whether it still is in the syllabus or not. Okay. Now, so double circulatory system. What does it mean by double circulatory system? They do ask you, what do you mean? What do you understand by double circulatory system?
The blood is pumped out of the heart and back into the heart.
Meaning what?
The blood goes two ways.
Yes.
Straight out to
Passes through blood passes through
Heart twice.
the heart twice for every complete circulation. Okay, so what is double circulatory system? Double circulatory system is when blood passes through the heart twice, okay, for every circulation. Okay, now, so what does it mean then? So you have the heart, right, and then you have the whole body, and then you have the lungs. Remember, lungs is part of your circulatory system as well, right? So blood from the rest of the body, remember, as blood passes through the rest of the tissue in the body, the oxygen will be taken up, right?
Yes.
Now, the blood will be carried from the rest of the body to the heart, right? And then from the heart, it'll be pumped to the lungs, right? And then from the lungs, it'll be pumped, it will go back to the heart, and from the heart to the rest of the body. Get it? So it passed through the heart twice in one complete circulation. Get it? Are you clear?
Yeah.
We have from the heart to the lungs, from the lungs back to the heart. This is what you call pulmonary circulation. Okay. Now here, from the heart to the body, from the body to the heart, from the heart to the body. This is what you call systemic circulation. Okay. So you have pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation together in make up your double circulatory system. But they do ask you simple things like this. What does it mean by double circulatory system? It means that the blood passes through the heart twice in one complete circulation. Okay. Now, and here, from the lungs to the heart, it'll be oxygenated.
Oxygenated.
Right. Oxygenated. Right. And then from the heart to the body, it'll be oxygenated. Mean that the blood carries oxygen. But then the oxygen will be absorbed by the rest of the body, and deoxygenated blood will be carried to the heart. So this is deoxygenated blood. And deoxygenated blood from the heart will be passed to the lung, right, to be oxygenated. Okay, you okay here? Right. Okay, when you do your circulation, it's very much into structure, function, processes. Basically, when you do biology, structure, function, processes. So you have to know basic things of this, okay? You have your pulmonary circulation, you have your systemic circulation. Okay, you okay so far? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, now, structure of the heart. You can go into structure of the heart. You can open up your textbook later tonight. Afterwards, we'll do some question. I'm not good at drawing the nice one, but always imagine your heart as having 4 chambers. Okay. Now, if you're doing this in class, and then I will ask you, or just get a piece of paper. Or now you have your piece of paper, right? You have your notebook in front of you. So take a notebook, draw this with me. Do this together with me. Okay. Divide into 4. Okay, done?
And
Done. Okay, now. And remember, same as the rest, when you draw here, it's actually mirror image. Left will be your right, right will be your left.
Left.
Okay? So here, and you have 4 chambers. The top chamber is what you call atrium. Okay? Or sometimes the old book will say auricle. The new book will say atrium. Okay? So this is your right atrium. And this is your left atrium. Okay? Now, here is your right ventricle, and this will be your left ventricle. Okay, copy that first. Okay, and then when you see the muscle between this, the muscle between the left and the right, this is what you call septum. What is septum? This is a muscle between the left and the right chamber of the heart. Okay. Now, the right ventricle, okay, what goes into your right ventricle is blood that pulls from the rest of the body. It goes to your vena cava. Okay, you have anterior vena cava and posterior vena cava, or superior or inferior vena cava. Basically, you have one coming from the top part, from the head and the shoulder and the arms into, and then another one is from the bottom part of your body, right? So therefore, the superior and anterior okay, vena cava. But you all, when you see vena cava, you know that is the main veins that carry the oxygenated blood into your right atrium. Okay. Now, here between your right atrium and your right ventricle, we have flaps. Okay, we have flaps like you have a door. Okay, this is like, you know, those door that, you know, kalau you tengok dulu punya people go into a bar, kalau gambar cowboy semua tu kan, cerita cowboy semua dia masuk dalam bar, it flaps open, right? You see that? Right. So they have these flaps. Okay, this is valve. We call it valve. Valve allows blood to come in one direction but not backflow. Okay, so valve prevent backflow. So here between right atrium and right ventricle, you have valve that have three flaps. They have three cordae tendineae that holds it. So you call this tricuspid valve. Okay, it only allows blood to go in one direction, but it cannot backflow. Okay, now so blood, your blood from the rest of the body goes through your vena cava into your right atrium. Okay, it goes. Okay, it goes. Deoxygenated blood goes from your right, into your vena cava, from your vena cava into your right atrium, and the right atrium go into your right ventricle. Are you with me?
Yes.
Right? Okay, now what happened? It will be carried to the lungs, right? It will be carried to the lungs, so it comes out through your pulmonary artery. Okay, pulmonary artery. So when you see the word artery, artery means what left the heart is the artery. What left the heart is the artery. So now it goes out, right? Okay, you get that? So here it comes in, okay, through vena cava into right atrium, past your tricuspid valve, into your right ventricle, out through your pulmonary artery. From pulmonary artery, it goes to the lungs. Okay, so it goes to the lungs. Right, what happened to the lungs? What happened at the lungs? It will be
Oxygenated.
Oxygenated, right? Okay, once it's oxygenated, it will go back to the heart. Okay, through your, okay, it goes back to the heart through pulmonary artery. Sorry, pulmonary vein. Okay, the word vein means it goes into the heart. Okay, so now this blood is oxygenated. You get it? So oxygenated blood will go in through your pulmonary vein into your left atrium. Clear? Right? Now between your left atrium and left ventricle, you have a valve. This is your
Bicuspid.
Or otherwise some book will say mitral valve. Okay, so it goes in and then it goes through your left ventricle and it comes out through your aorta. Okay, it comes out through your aorta, carried aorta, remember, artery, Aorta branch out to your
Artery.
artery to your, remember artery to
Arterioles.
arteriole to
Arterioles to capillaries
Capillaries.
to and into veins.
capillaries to venules to vena cava,
Venules to vein.
venules to vein to vena
Cava.
cava, and all those start all over again. You get that? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so structure of the heart first. So when you see the structure of the heart, okay, so what you know about the heart? What is heart? They don't ask you what tissue is heart.
A muscle.
A muscle, yes, it's basically a muscle. It's basically a muscle, okay? But know this first, you have vena cava, okay? From vena cava, it goes into your right atrium, it goes into your right ventricle, you have tricuspid and bicuspid valve. At times, they don't call it tricuspid, bicuspid, they call it atrioventricular valve, okay? They call it atrioventricular valve. Okay, atrioventricular valve. This atrioventricular valve is your tricuspid and bicuspid valve. Okay, so if you come across the word atrioventricular valve, it's tricuspid and bicuspid. And remember, what's the function of valve? What's the function
To
of valve?
prevent backflow.
To prevent backflow, right? And then what else? Yeah, it prevent backflow, and you notice that you will come across it some more in your lymphatic vessels. And yes.
Why is it that dekat right atrium tu dia ada 3 valve tapi dekat left atrium tu ada 2 valve?
Well, you are designed like that.
Oh.
This is like, why are we designed with 2 legs? Right? Yeah, so you are designed.
Okay.
You call it tricuspid partly because there's 3 quadrae tendinae, okay, tendon that holds it and this flaps there. But yeah, that's how we design it. Okay, now another one is, remember, to prevent backflow, right? Valve is to prevent backflow. So you do have valve as well. At your aorta and here, you also have valve. You have valve here, and you also have valve here. Okay,
Yeah.
because that goes in through your pulmonary artery cannot backflow into the heart, and those that comes into the aorta cannot backflow, and this is what I call your mitral valve. Sorry, not mitral valve. Your semilunar.
Semilunar.
Okay, semilunar valve. So this semilunar valve prevent backflow. Get it? Are you clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now again, tell me. Blood from the rest of the blood goes to vena cava. Right. Okay. From vena cava, what happened? It goes into the right atrium, and then it goes into the right ventricle. It comes out through pulmonary artery, and then it goes to the lung to be oxygenated. Then the oxygenated blood will go back to the heart through pulmonary veins, right? And then it comes out through your, then it goes to the left ventricle. It comes out to the aorta to be distributed throughout the body. Okay, you're clear with that? Yes, no? Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, you have to know the structure. Okay, now the processes. Right, okay, you know the structure, you can double it. Now the processes. The one process, you have to know the flow. Another one, you have to know what happened during one cardiac cycle or one heartbeat. Remember, the heart is made up of what? Basically, heart is made up of a muscle. Right, okay. Heart is made up of a muscle. So now when we talk about one heartbeat or one, okay, you have one heartbeat or one cardiac cycle. Or one heartbeat. You pernah nampak tak? Kalau dekat ni, you nampak tak? Kalau kat TV lah, betul-betul you tak pernah nampak. You have this? You have this?
Yes.
Right. So actually the ECG correspond to one cardiac cycle. Your PQRST, your peak and your trough is actually correspond to one cardiac cycle. And this past paper, they do ask you to describe one cardiac cycle, okay, or one heartbeat. What is one heartbeat? You have to go back here. Okay. Now, deep breath, breath in, breath out. Okay. Now, as blood goes into your right atrium, remember first blood goes into the right atrium and left atrium concurrently. You cannot, of course, you know it flows like this, but it doesn't wait until the whole thing. You get it or not?
Simultaneously.
Simultaneously, blood flows from your pulmonary vein
And venicle.
into your right atrium and left atrium. Now, as the volume increases, that create pressure.
Pressure.
And the pressure push open your tricuspid and bicuspid. Get it?
Yeah.
So it push open your tricuspid and bicuspid and blood flows into your right ventricle and the left ventricle. Now, as the volume of blood fills up the left ventricle and the right ventricle, what happened? Your heart will, your ventricle will contract. Okay. I think in SPM you belajar SA, sinoatrial node and atrioventricular node and sinoatrial nodes. And nodes is actually, do you know that, kalau in Islam it says that certain, how many days into conception, Allah Allah blows the ruh into you, right? And then if you see it, you can see that your heart start to pump. Okay. The thing is, the moment your heart pump, your heart never stop pumping until you die. Okay? Unless you suffer from certain disease. But your heart don't stop pumping. Okay. Your heart is controlled, but it is under your, remember what kind of nerve impulse, what kind of nervous system is this? This is under your autonomic nervous system. Once it pumps, it will never stop pumping. Can you ask your heart to stop pumping?
No.
I'm so heartbroken. I want to die. Stop pumping. Boleh tak?
No.
Right, because it's all controlled by your medulla oblongata. And the thing is, your heart moves and on its own. Okay, on its own. The thing is, if you have a heart, right, you cut open a heart and then quickly put it in Ringer solution. Ringer solution is a solution that have the same ionic concentration as your tissue fluid. And then it will, and you provide electrical impulse to it, it will keep pumping.
Yeah,
it will keep pumping.
Cool.
Yeah, on its own. Okay, provided you provide the electrical impulse there. And then some people have problem with their SA node or AV node. Your sinoatrial node is somewhere here, and your AV node is somewhere here. But in your SPM you belajarkan, but in O-Level you don't need to. You have sinoatrial node and you have this, you have one here and you have here, right? So you have heard of people who go for pacemaker, right? So sinoatrial node, okay, you tak payah belajar sekarang, nanti A-Level you belajar. So what happened is that the electrical impulse will be passed through all, systematically. It will be passed through your. You don't worry so much about it. Okay, I'm just saying here. Okay, you have one here, one here. So the electrical impulse will be passed through your heart muscle. Okay, through your bundle of His, Purkinje fiber and bundle of His, and then it goes here and to the rest of the heart, and your heart will beat on its own. Okay, it's like a switch box. Once you switch it on, it'll never stop. Honestly, never stop. Cuma bila what increases your heartbeat, Nina? Remember you dah buat endocrine system. What?
Adrenaline.
Adrenaline, right? When you have adrenaline, or adrenaline will work on your nervous system, so your vagus nerve will cause your heart to beat faster. Or when you go for exercise, right? So that faster. Otherwise, it will keep beating, right? So you have your vagus nerve that controls your whether to increase the heartbeat. Okay, but don't worry so much about it. Your sinoatrial MV.
Teacher.
Yes.
I'm always curious. How is it possible that some people skip a heartbeat?
Apa kata people skip a heartbeat?
I have no idea.
Alah, tu mesti dah ada girlfriend skip a heartbeat.
Tak.
Kalau aku banyak sangat. Okay, the thing is, normal people, if you don't have any disease, remember your PQRST, okay, your peak and control from your ECG will still be the same, right? Maybe go faster a little bit during exercise or something. But then when you say skip a heartbeat, means that you suffer from arrhythmia, meaning that your heartbeat is not in rhythm, arrhythmia. So therefore, you have a heart attack. So kalau dia kata, your heart skip a heartbeat means you are having a heart attack. Tapi selalu orang kata skip. When I see you, no, my heart skip a heartbeat or whatever, right? So meaning that you are having arrhythmia. You can have tachycardia, you can have arrhythmia. So those things, okay?
Yes.
Because you
Yes.
ought not to have that rhythm, okay? Because your heart beat in rhythm, okay? Get it? So you nampak tak? Okay. Anyway, rhythm is actually built in you. When you are in utero, you always listen. I mean, you naturally listen to your mom's heartbeat, right? Sebab tu you tengok baby, kalau you want to soothe them, what do? Put them on your chest, right? So the beating of the heart kind of like soothes them. You're used to it. But anyway, okay, now, so you have this, coming back here. So heart itself is a bunch of muscle. Okay, it's a bunch of muscle that can be triggered by nerve impulse. Get that?
Yes.
Triggered by nerve impulse. It's a bunch of muscle. So what is a function of muscle? It contract and it
Contract and relax.
relax. Okay. Now, when you talk about one heartbeat, yang tadi I kata vagus nerve, I talk about sinoatrial, SA node, and everything too. Don't worry about it. That one is for later on when you do your foundation, your A-level. And you learn more when you go into your physiology and all those. But anyway, so at your stage, you have to know what is one heartbeat. Okay. Tadi apa? Blood fills into your right atrium and your
Blood
left.
vessel,
Oh, now
right atrium.
the
High pressure,
pressure that push open the tricuspid and
cuspid,
right. So this allows
Blood.
blood to flow into your
right
right
ventricle and left ventricle.
left ventricle, right. As the volume in left ventricle and right ventricle builds up, this create pressure and the ventricle will contract. Okay, so the mechanism of what causes it to contract, macam kata Purkinje fibers, bundle of his, don't worry about it. Okay, so as blood fills up the right ventricle, as pressure builds up, the ventricle start to contract. Okay, when it contract, the blood will go into the pulmonary artery
and aorta.
to the lungs and to the rest of the body. Get it?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, teacher, do we have to tell that the semilunar valve open up?
Sekejap lagi.
Okay.
Lepas tu, what happened, okay, that is contraction. What happens, for a split second, your ventricle will relax, okay? Your ventricle will relax.
Relax.
Okay, now, so okay, now kalau you measure your blood pressure, everyone pakai machine tu dekat Omron punya machine tu. But
Yes.
some doctors, you go to the clinic, some doctors still prefer to put that spectrometer around your arms and then put in and then pump in and everything, right? Betul tak?
Yes.
Now, and then they put the stethoscope on your arms. Actually, what are they listening to? Do you know what they are listening to?
The pulse?
No, they're not listening to the pulse.
Oh.
Okay, later on when you, if you go further and you are into it, you notice that what they're listening to is first is the lub and the dub. Okay, the sound. Lub.
Dub.
Dub. Okay, you can really hear this lub and dub. Okay, very loud lub. This loud lub is due to the closing of the bicuspid and the tricuspid. Okay, the moment dia macam pintu tau, pump, dia bukanlah pump, dia close cut. The moment blood goes into the left ventricle and then it close shut. As the ventricle contract, that closes the tricuspid and bicuspid. That gives you the lub sound. And then as the ventricle relax, what happened? The semilunar, the semilunar will close. You remember why semilunar need to close? To prevent backflow.
To prevent backflow.
So the semilunar closes. That gives you the faint dub sound. Okay, so the pressure that they take is actually the systolic and the diastolic pressure. Okay, because the lub is due to the systole. Okay, systole is ventricular contraction. Okay, ventricular contraction. When your ventricle contract, okay, that is a systole. You don't have, when you explain, you don't have to mention the lub and the dub. This is just for you, for your own knowledge, okay? And then the dub is actually, this is followed by ventricular diastole, okay? ventricular
Diastole.
diastole. Okay. Okay, what is diastole? This is ventricular relaxation. Okay, so bila your dad ke, your mom ke, your atuk ke, your nenek ke kata, oh atuk punya darah atas atas 170, bawah 90. Betul tak? Or your dad or your mom said, atas 130, bawah apa-apa, atas bawah tu. Pernah dengar tak? You tak pernah dengar, sembang selalu dengan atuk you. Balik ke raya ni ke, kalau you boleh balik raya, tanya atuk you. Kan? So when you say atas bawah semua tu, what they are referring to is this. Okay, if you say 120, 80, meaning that your ventricular systole is 120. And ventricular diastole, diastolic pressure is 80, systolic pressure is 120. Ini yang kata atas bawah tu.
Wait, teacher, this is pressure, right?
Yeah, this is pressure. Okay, now tell me what you mean by pressure. What create that pressure? Is actually, remember, blood that flows through your aorta is actually oxygenated blood. Right, oxygenated blood at high pressure.
High pressure.
High pressure.
So you get that? So if they ask you what is one cardiac cycle or one heartbeat is made up of ventricular
Contraction and relaxation.
This is like for your systole, you tak tahu the word systole pun tak apa. And, no.
Wait, teacher, can we just say systole and diastole?
Okay, kalau you buat dekat sekolah, nanti cikgu you marah you. But you pun tak tahu. Some teachers know, but not all know. Okay, but if you write in your O-Level, it's okay. Okay, ventricular contraction and ventricular
relaxation.
Okay, this is ventricular systole, and this is ventricular diastole. Okay, so when you see atas bawah tu, you mean systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. This is one cardiac cycle. So you have to mention during ventricular contraction, what happened? During ventricular contraction, what happened?
Blood enters the right atrial and left atrium.
No, ventricle ventricle contracts. So what happened? Closing the
bicuspid and tricuspid valve.
Cuspid, closing the atrioventricular valve, right? And then what happened?
Blood flows.
Okay, and then here closing of tricuspid, bicuspid, and opening of your
semilunar valve.
Right. Okay, semilunar valve open. Okay. Sebab tu you kena tahu structure. Kalau you tak tahu structure, you tak tahu what we are talking about here. Okay, so blood flows into
lungs and the body.
Aorta
and pulmonary artery.
Okay, get it? Now, after that, what is ventricular relaxation? The ventricle. This is followed by very brief one. What is
split second?
Okay, ventricle will
relax.
Okay, what happened here? This
open semilunar valve to
closes, right? The semilunar close. This will give you that faint tap sound. Okay, get it? You get that? Okay, then whole cycle start all over again. They do ask you to be able to explain one cardiac cycle or one heartbeat. One heartbeat is a ventricular contraction and a ventricular relaxation. During ventricular contraction, or when the ventricle contract, the tricuspid and bicuspid valve closes. Semilunar open, blood flows into the aorta and the pulmonary artery. When ventricle relax, this is followed by ventricular relaxation. The ventricle relax and semilunar closes to prevent backflow into the heart. You okay with this? Yes? No? Thumbs up. You get that?
Oh wait, teacher, for ventricular relaxation, just stop at the semilunar closes?
Yeah. Okay, and the whole cycle start all over again. The whole cycle of blood from vena cava, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, another thing about the heart that they will ask you is this. You see here, you talk about the septum, then we talk about what are the septums, and you can you have seen people saying that, oh, anak dia sakit jantung berlubang or something, or you're born with hole in the heart, right?
Oh,
So
that
what the heart means. What does hole in the heart means?
there's a what do you call it? A hole in the septum.
Yes, there's a hole in the septum. You know how big the hole is?
I have no idea.
You know, Nina, you know how big is the hole is?
No.
It's only a pinhead.
Pinhead. Oh,
Pinhead?
It not be big. It's just a small hole in between. What's the problem when you have hole in your septum?
it mixes the deoxygenated blood and oxygenated
It's
blood.
oxygenated blood, deoxygenated blood, because you see, your left atrium and left ventricle carries oxygenated blood. So which one, then next question, they will always ask you, which wall is thicker, your atrium or your ventricle?
The ventricle.
Your ventricle will be thicker. No, sorry. Your left or your right wall
Ventricle.
is thicker.
Left.
Left.
Your left will be thicker. Why?
It's
It
to
carries
pump.
oxygenated blood.
It's to pump blood all over.
Blood, right? Because it carries oxygenated blood at high pressure.
High pressure.
Right. Now, mentioning about that, now they do ask you when you talk about double circulatory system, they ask you what's the advantage of it. What is double circulatory system? Double circulatory system.
The blood passes through
Passes
heart
through
twice.
One for every
For
complete.
every complete circle.
Another one is they ask you why is it that mammals have double circulatory system? Okay, why is it that we have double circulatory system? For double circulatory system will provide what? High pressure.
High pressure.
High pressure, right? High pressure blood will be at high pressure, then blood will be fast.
Fast.
Will be carried
Travel faster.
to cater for. Remember how many compared to insects? Which one is bigger?
Ours.
Bigger. We have trillion number of tissues, right? So
Yes.
each tissue will undergo cell respiration. So therefore, this is to cater for high rate of cell
Respiration.
because every single cell requires
Energy.
oxygen.
Oxygen. To,
So therefore, you need to supply that oxygen fast. So therefore, we need double circulatory system. Because in SPM, you will learn about fish. Fish has single circulatory system. And then you also have insects. Okay, insects is an open system. They don't have a blood system, but the air is pumped through your spiracle, and then from the spiracle, it goes straight to the muscle. The oxygen just infused to the muscle.
actually, teacher, that's in our textbooks
It's in your textbook.
last year.
Last year.
PT3, yeah.
PT3.
Yeah.
That used to be SPM actually.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that used to be for SPM. So yeah, but then O-Level you don't need to know all those. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you okay with this? So you have to know the structure of the heart. You have to be able to label it. You have to know how. You have to know the function of the atrioventricular valve. What is the function of atrioventricular valve?
Prevent blood flow.
Is Balkis here?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So atrioventricular valve prevent
That
Blood
flow.
flow.
and then you have to know the septum, and then you have to know another one is you have to know apa nama tadi yang kata? You have to know cardiac cycle, one heartbeat, okay? Ventricular contraction, ventricular relaxation, and all those things. Okay. Now, I will hari ni sebab Amar tak masukkan the question on heart disease, but we will cover that tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow we'll cover heart disease. Okay.
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 And remember, all this blood is carried by the blood vessel, right?
So,
Okay. So now, when you talk about blood vessel, you have three types of blood vessel. You have, remember, aorta, artery, arterioles, capillary, venous, vein, vena cava, right?
Yeah.
So artery, you're required to know the structure of the artery, the vein, and the
Capillary.
capillary. Okay, artery, veins, and capillaries. Okay, now, so the artery, remember, artery generally, if we talk with respect to the heart, artery means going into. Okay, going into the heart is artery,
Yeah.
right? Going into the kidney is the artery, renal artery, remember? Right, hepatic artery. But beside the one in the heart, the rest of the artery carries oxygenated blood. Okay, with exception to the heart, when you see the artery, it means that, say I said renal artery. So renal artery and renal vein. What is more in renal artery and less in renal vein?
Oxygenated blood.
Yeah, so meaning oxygen is more in renal artery, less in renal vein.
Yeah, brain.
It's more in renal vein and less in renal artery.
The oxygenated blood.
Carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide
Okay.
concentration.
Because the tissue, the cell of the kidney already takes up the oxygen. Okay. Now vein,
Wait, teacher.
yeah.
So the blood undergoes ultrafiltration, and they also give the oxygen at the same time.
Because what is kidney?
Oh, then.
What is kidney? Kidney is an
Organ.
organ, right? So
Organs.
remember, the lining, the nephrons and everything are all made up of cells and tissues, and cells
Cells and tissue.
respire. So where do they get the oxygen from? They get it from the branching of the renal artery. Okay, now veins carry
Deoxygenated blood.
blood. Okay, deoxygenated blood. Okay, and capillaries is in a bed of capillaries, so it's kind of like a merge between oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. As it goes, capillary have this arterial end and the venous end of it. Okay, and
Yes.
so here, artery, since it carries oxygenated blood, the structure of the artery, remember structure function processes. Artery will have thick wall.
Thick wall.
It's very thick wall, thick elastic wall. Okay, while veins have thin wall and big lumen. Okay, get it? And capillary is only one cell thick. Okay. Capillary is only one cell thick. Okay, so artery again, just now I mentioned, artery have thick elastic wall.
Yes.
Okay, thick elastic wall. Okay, now what does it mean? It's thick muscular elastic wall. Why is it a very thick wall? Remember, this is oxygenated. From aorta, it goes to the artery. So remember, aorta carries oxygenated blood, and it comes out from contraction of the heart, from ventricular contraction. So it has very high pressure.
High pressure.
Pressure.
The blood, and so therefore, this thick wall is to withstand pressure.
Withstand pressure.
Pressure.
Is to withstand high pressure, right? And then it's elastic. So now, if I have a pipe, imagine you have a pipe, right? You have a very rigid pipe. Then you have large volume of water passing through at high pressure. What happened to the pipe?
It bursts.
It bursts.
Recoil.
Right, it bursts. So you can't afford to do that, right? So what happened is the wall is actually elastic. So as blood passes through it, so the wall will just expand and contract back. So meaning it helps it to recoil, okay, to expand and recoil. You know what recoil? Okay, it allows it to
Expand
expand
and contract.
and recoil. Don't contract. We don't call it
Relax. Recoil.
expand and recoil. And this expansion and recoiling is what gives rise to pulse. Because if you see pulse paper, they do ask you, explain what gives rise to pulse. Okay, what gives rise to pulse? What gives rise to pulse is the expansion and the recoiling of the
Artery wall.
Artery.
Okay, when does it expand? When your ventricles start to pump. When the ventricle pump, it pushes the blood, right? So one pulse equals to one heartbeat. You get that?
Yes.
Okay, one pulse equals to one heartbeat. Say you have 78 pulse per minute, meaning that your heartbeat is more or less about that. But now your heartbeat goes up to 95. Your pulse goes 95, meaning that your heartbeat goes at 95 because
95.
every pulse is equal to one heartbeat. You get that? And
Yes.
that you ask you are required to do the experiment to find the heartbeat. So how do you know? How do you do the heartbeat? Where do you find your pulse in the first place?
At the Wrist.
your wrist, right, at your neck.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to find the pulse, okay, and then count the number of pulse
Pulse
for
every
60
minute.
seconds. Okay, repeat and get the average. Okay? So they do ask you simple things like that. Okay. Now it expands and recalls, and then it has small lumen. This is lumen, and it has small lumen. Okay. Right? And then when you talk about the veins has large lumen. Right, large lumen to allow for the blood to flow, because remember it carries deoxygenated blood at low pressure.
Low pressure.
Right, low pressure. So it's a bit sluggish. Now, to prevent backflow, you also have valve. Okay, you have valve along the veins. You have valve. So this valve will prevent what? What's the function of valve?
To prevent
backflow.
Backflow of blood. Okay, it prevents backflow of blood. You get that? Now, you pernah nampak tak nenek you ke, or you know your grandmother or so, kadang-kadang orang muda-muda juga. And we see the back of their legs. At times they have this something like spiral kat kaki dia. Tapi tak kalau nenek nak tunjuk kaki dia kan. Those are what you call varicose vein, or have you heard of varicose veins? Okay. Okay, varicose veins is when your valve collapse. Okay, don't worry about it, but that is just for your interest. Okay, now, so you're okay with that, and then you have your capillary. Capillary is only one cell thick. One cell thick, because the function of capillary is for
diffusion.
Right, remember, for diffusion. So one cell thick facilitate the diffusion. Okay, you okay with this? Yes. Okay. So what have you learned so far? You learned about double circulation. First you know what is the system, right? Circulatory system, what are organs involved, and then you know you have your blood circulatory system and you have your lymphatic circulatory system. And what we have is what you call double circulatory system. What does it mean? It's a double circulatory system? Meaning
Blood pass through the heart
twice.
For one complete.
You kena sambung ni nak. Twice
for every complete
circulation.
Okay. Now, next is what's the advantage of double circulatory system. The double circulatory system will ensure that the blood has high pressure and can be delivered faster to all the tissues to cater for the high rate of cell respiration. Right. And then you have to know also the structure of the heart, your right atrium, your left atrium, your tricuspid, bicuspid, or what you call atrioventricular valve. And then you have your semilunar valve, and then the flow of it, okay? And then also knowing what makes one cardiac cycle or one heartbeat. Okay, remember one heartbeat is made up of ventricular contraction and ventricular relaxation. What happened during ventricular contraction is tricuspid, bicuspid closes.
Semilunar opens.
Blood flow through?
Blood flow through
aorta and pulmonary artery. Ventricular relaxation, the ventricle relax. Semilunar closes, and remember here, blood flows into what?
Blood flow.
Apa? Left
ventricle and right ventricle.
And right atrium. Remember? Left atrium, what goes into your left atrium is from your blood from your veins, and then blood from vena cava start to goes into your right atrium and left atrium. Right, okay?
Okay.
Now, you okay with this? And then you have to know the structure of artery, veins, and